Hi, it's Crystal here from
Hi.
That Product Review. I'm here with Mallory from SmartGlamour.com. Mallory, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. I'm a big fan.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I love what you do. I love your new pivot, but mostly I mean all of the things that you do I love, but I love that you carry clothes from size extra small to size 15X and beyond.
hmm
So just before we get started too much into the details, just tell everybody where they can shop for you, where they can find you on Instagram and Facebook and anywhere else you are, and all about you.
Sure. So my company is Smart Glamour, which you can find at www.smartglamour.com. If you just Google Smart Glamour, you'll find us all over the place on Twitter and Facebook. We're both just Smart Glamour. On Instagram, we are smart_glamour. I used to have the full Smart Glamour, and then algorithm killed my page, and so I started a new one at the beginning of 2019. So technically, they will both lead you to me, but it's smart_glamour.
Gotcha. I remember all that drama
Yeah.
we all went through. You gotta love it. Gotta love the algorithms.
Yeah.
So tell us, how did you get started making clothes? By looking at you, I think you look like you're not a person of size.
I am not.
I know you, what you look like from the waist down, so I know
Uh-huh.
you're not. But how did you get inspired to make clothes for people that are all shapes and sizes?
Well, I mean, basically the very short answer is that there was never a time where I was going to make clothes and then limit who could have them. It wasn't at the beginning. It was not some very specific choice of mine. So like I've been making things and sewing like maybe like 20 years at this point now. I started teaching myself to sew, and my grandmother taught me to sew, and I would like take things apart and put them together, make myself things, but I never thought that could be a job. And then when I got to my high school, it had a fashion program, which was amazing, and I was like, oh wait, this is a thing you can do, great. So decided to do that. In high school, through that program, I got to do a fashion show, and I just had my friends model. And my friends are people who all don't look like each other. And I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, these are my friends. I'm going to put them in clothes. Great. Again, and it wasn't a conversation. Then I went to FIT in New York City for college. And I was kind of disappointed just in the trajectory that they kind of push you along. It didn't really seem like what I wanted to do. It was very kind of like you graduate, you intern, you sit behind a desk for a long time, and maybe at some point, maybe you can make your own thing.
Sure.
So then I transferred to Pratt, and I got an art and design education degree. But then while I was doing that, I really missed clothes. So then after graduating from there, I went into corporate design, which I did for a while, and I learned what I could learn, but also was not what I wanted. It was sitting behind a desk. It was copying other people's things. It was producing things in sweatshops. It was super high stress for no reward. So I eventually left doing that and was just doing freelance work. And during that time in my life, I was just finding myself having a lot of conversations with my friends, with my loved ones, with my coworkers at part-time jobs, just like, okay, can we just all like stop talking crap about ourselves? Like, it's so unnecessary. We all have so much more to offer the world. We have, everyone around me is so incredible, and then for some reason we get in a circle and it just becomes this downward spiral of like negative self-talk. And then beyond that, I was having lots of conversations with people about clothing and about how poorly it's made and how badly it fits and how it's not accessible to people. And long story short, I was like, well, what if I just made a clothing line that addressed all of that? And so I launched Smart Glamour in 2014. And the main plan was to make clothes ethically that are accessible to everybody and that also are customizable, both for fit purposes, but also just for preferences. If you like have in your mind that you want a black wrap top with 3/4 sleeves and you can't find it anywhere, you can come get my wrap top, get it in black, and change the sleeve length, and then that's what you get. And then to fight back on the whole negative body image thing, all of our models represent everybody, size, shape, height, weight, age, ethnicity, ability, gender, and then I don't Photoshop them. It's been like that since 2014. And it's just, it produces really wonderful reactions from people who shop, and also people who just stumble upon it. So
yeah, right. Yeah, your fashion shows are amazing. They're just a thing of beauty, and it's so fun to see so much representation and inclusivity. A lot of brands like to say that they're inclusive, but they're not. They're not. Stopping at 4X is not inclusive. Sorry.
No, right.
Nice try. Also, I forgot to mention this part, but yeah, I think you're really you're fighting the fast fashion world, right? Like it's so bad, right? Our landfills are filled with clothes that people just toss in the garbage. They, oh, let's get another one. It's only $5 or whatever. Right. It's so bad for our planet.
Yes, and it's such a big problem because there aren't a lot of alternatives, and there aren't a lot of alternatives that are affordable, so they could be, viable alternatives. There's also not a lot of alternatives specifically for plus size people. I mean, obviously, we all know that in mainstream fashion, even in fast fashion, plus size people have less options. And then when you get into ethical fashions, it's even less options. And then, just I understand, obviously, because of the way that I make my clothes and price them, that people need to be paid fairly for their work, and paid fairly for their the things that they sell. But at the same time, if the only option is $30 dress or $300 dress, there's a lot of people that are left out in the middle of that equation who would like to buy something that's not made from a sweatshop but can't make that jump. So the way
also, as you know, a lot of times people at size make less money than people that are straight size. So it's just the window gets smaller and smaller to buy that $300 dress. It's like,
right. Yeah. It truly is just like it's such a cyclical problem, and you really need to address it from so many angles at once.
Socioeconomic on up. So I keep hearing that people are starting to invest, and people are starting to become more minimalist, and they don't have to have 50 black t-shirts anymore. They're like, let me invest in one or two great pieces, and let one or two or three pairs of great pants, and not having a closet full and have a walk-in closet full of like the same stuff over and over. Is that really happening? Is it wishful thinking on my part?
I mean, it's definitely, I think it's something that becomes more popular year after year. That almost kind of is like similar to like a capsule wardrobe where, you only own a certain amount of pieces, but you can mix them all and match. I think it's different for everybody. Personally, I love clothes. Like I'm not personally not going to have a capsule collection, but at the same time, I am only going to make myself things that I know I am going to be able to wear for a long time. And like, they can still be trendier things, they can be something with the big bright floral on it.
Sure.
But if it's made well, it will last you.
Yes.
So I think it's not only about, just trying to own the smallest amount as possible. I think it's more about buying things that you really like, that fit you well, and that are made well with good quality fabric so that they will last.
Because if they're made well, then they hold up to laundry, and they hold up to the washer and the dryer, or the drying, in the air, how do you call it?
Right.
The clothesline. If they're not made well, they just, I know every time I buy something from Torrid, I'm like to my boyfriend, don't put it in the dryer.
Right.
All of a sudden it's a new size. Like,
I mean, the like main two ways that, fast fashion brands, my door closed, fast fashion brands, cut their costs is one, with cheap fabric. So like when I worked in my corporate job, it was constantly like, what's the thinnest fabric we could use and get away with it and have like not too many people are returning it because it's see-through. Also, a lot of times when you go buy things, a lot of things are lined. And I think sometimes people think that's like kind of a fancy thing to have 2 layers of fabric, but it honestly is because they've made the first layer so cheap that they have to put another layer behind it. Otherwise people couldn't wear it. And the layer that they put behind it is usually like 100% poly. It's not breathable. It's, gross. And all that stuff kills.
Is acetate a material? Acetate?
Yeah. I mean, acetate is
horrible,
like
right?
a compound, but it's can be in materials, but it can also be in like, everyday, like plastics and stuff. But, and then the second thing is that they will reduce remove seams and like make things less well made, so like less, they don't fit as well, you know. Like I remember back in my corporate job, we designed this really cute bustier top, and in order to make it, they literally were like just removing a million different seams that we had put in it that was like design wise purpose, and they just like cut them out because it makes it cheaper. So I mean, you know, they're pinching pennies to try to produce
so like, when I used to work in tech, I had to, you know, wear like career wear, and I got to the point where I will not buy a blazer without a liner. So as I kind of, you know, kept going through that, I'm only going to buy blazers with liners because you get the cheap ones without a liner. They look really crappy on you. And then I noticed the liner started getting smaller. So the liner wouldn't go all the way from the back. It would go from the neck to about halfway down, or like not a full liner in the jacket. So that's just them trying to save money, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways. I make some few different blazers for SmartGlamour, and I actually don't line them at all because the types of fabrics that I'm using, there's no need for them. I mean, if you're making a jacket out of like, you know, a thin wool or something like that, needs a liner. But I like to make jackets out of like scuba and ponte and like things that are like good enough weight and good enough quality to stand on their own. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of reasons, different ways like how to make clothes and why to make them, and those are all used to, you know, get away with making things poorly or making things cheaply, and having people still buy them.
So I mean, sweatshops are really a thing, right? Like they really exist. Like they exist in the U.S., they exist in Mexico, they exist in China, they exist everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
You like to think like, please, it's not happening, but it really is.
Oh no! I mean, it's the majority of clothing is made in sweatshops. I mean, you only have to not pass 2 labor laws to be considered a sweatshop, so that's pretty easy to do. And there's also, you know, there's variations of sweatshops that are absolutely terrible, and sweatshops that are, you know, not as bad, and maybe they can hide some things on the table when they get inspected. And then kind of go back to business as usual when they know that they're in the clear for a little bit. Yeah. You know, there's documentaries all over the place where folks have gone into sweatshops and filmed them, but there's also sweatshops that, like, you know, are set up like absolutely not, you cannot come in here because they know that they will be shut down. 97% of the clothing that's worn by Americans is not made in America. So that obviously does include some factories that are running well, but it just goes to show you that, like, I mean, just 50 years ago, like a little bit more than half of our clothes were made here. And now almost the entirety is not made here. And the further you push things away, the less accountability there is, and other countries have less strict labor laws. So they can exploit other workers. And then because we don't see them, we can just kind of like go like this and just, you know, buy the $5 top.
Yeah, guilty as charged. So, okay, sustainable, right? You're not a sweatshop. Maybe you are. I don't know. Do you get paid enough, Mallory?
Yes. So I pay myself appropriately.
Cool.
You know, I have my direct, like how I come up with my pricing on my website. If you go to smartglamour.com, in the menu, there's what makes SmartGlamour different, and under there is ethical production and pricing. So I also believe in transparent pricing. I believe in telling everybody exactly how I get my prices and why they are what they are. I also, because I don't sell through other people's stores, I don't have to price up. So then, you know, I don't like wholesale my stuff. So there's just a lot of different ways to sell things, not only make things, but then also price them. So that is another thing that I keep in mind. Yes.
Pretty amazing. And if people need, like if they need a size that's higher than a 15X, you can also customize a size for them, right?
Yes, absolutely. So the chart itself is extra small through 15X. The extra small, I just happen to have it right next to me, is, you know, 30 bust, 21 waist, 31 hip. And then, for example, the 15X is 88 bust, 79 waist, 90 hip. So if somebody has, you know, any of those measurements that are bigger than that, then yes, absolutely, I can customize.
Is that like a little upcharge?
For fully custom, yes. But if somebody messages me and says, you know, I'm just a size above or something, and I feel like I'm not going to fit into it, that's not a problem. then
That's
I will
very
just
cool.
make a 16X. But that's actually never happened so far.
Okay.
I've never had anybody customize past a 15X. I've at one point my size chart was to 6X, and then I would say and beyond. And a lot of the times I was making 7, 8, 7X, 8X, 10X, 11X. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make the chart bigger so that there's less of this back and forth. And so but I do sell 15Xs.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. So if you can do all of this, how come everybody else can't? I mean, you're a one-woman show. You're making your products in the United States. Why can't the other people that make plus size clothing, why do they choose not to do this?
So there's lots of answers to that question, and the biggest part of it is that it really depends on the company and what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it. So like the very easy answer is just that they don't want to. They don't want to enough to maybe make the effort or cut or like lose a little bit of money. And what I mean by lose a little bit of money is that a lot of these companies that are very large are running, they're corporations, they're giant companies. They have boards, they have CEOs and CFOs and investors. And there's just a lot more red tape to go through, and they're trying to make a lot more money. And so they're running on a very different business plan than I am. What I will say is for those mid-sized brands or even brands who are trying to be inclusive, and so they have extra small to extra large, and then they add like a 1 and a 2 when they stop there. To me, that seems almost sillier, like because when the average American woman is about a 2X or 16, 18, she has a 38-inch waist. The fact that like you're capping it there makes no sense to me, even just from a business point of view. What also makes no sense to me is people who say, oh, well, if I'm going to make plus size, I have to charge more for them. Like, I mean, the fact of the matter is the average person is around a 2X, 1X, 2X, depending on the chart you're looking at. And the majority of the population is plus size. So if you want to be financially sound, you should be carrying plus sizes. Then you should also be costing off of a 1X, 2X. They just don't want to let go in their mind that like a medium is the average size person. The medium is not the average size person. The average size person is a 1X, 2X. So if you're still costing off of a small medium, yes, of course you're going to be losing money because you're not charging appropriately and you're not doing your fabric consumption appropriately. Everything needs to move up. Then you also need to be promoting your garments and advertising to plus size people. So often people will add a few sizes and then go, oh, I tested it and it didn't sell. Okay, well, do you have any plus size models? Are you working with any plus size influencers? Are you following any like plus size conversations on the internet? Are you even doing market research into that customer? Because otherwise you're not appropriately testing it. You're just saying that you did.
How can we get you in all of their brains, Mallory? How can we let them understand how this works?
Well, I think then that is what kind of boils down to my very quick answer of they don't want to. I mean, the fact of the matter is we live in a fat phobic society and people hate fat people and they don't want to dress them. They don't want to see them as models. So if you have fat phobic people running businesses, that's what they're going to do. I teach a fashion business course at Parsons, and it's kind of amazing to see the preconceived notions these students have about sizing and people. In my most recent last semester course of it, I added a section on plus size fashion. It doesn't exist in textbooks. And we were talking about it. And one of my students, I was like, this is a safe space. Like, if you have questions, you're not going to offend me, ask them, because like I want to have this conversation. And one of my students was like, she's actually a curvier person. She's probably like a size or two bigger than me, and was like, well, if you're going to dress plus size people though, like, don't they all just want like, like really plain stuff that's like going to hide their body? Like they're not going to want to buy like something like really fun and avant-garde, right? Because if you want to make stuff like that, and I was just like, no. I'm like you can't act like plus size people are some monolith that like everybody wants to wear the same thing. I mean, straight size people aren't a monolith, so why would plus size people be a monolith?
Yeah. I think that's the old paradigm too, right? They assume that plus size people want just a sack and just kind of be camouflage and hide in the corner, but that's not the case. I'm not sure it ever was the case, but I think that's what people thought was the case because, no, we don't want to. That's not, no. We're just like everybody else, right? We have individual tastes and flavors, and I'm not really much of a fashion person. But I love that it's available. And sometimes I might, go a little bit outside of what I usually buy or, wear, but I at least like having it. It's like having the right to have an abortion, right? I at least want the right.
Right. I mean, yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me that we would look at straight size people who, again, are the minority and say, oh, obviously they want all of these options. They want luxury. They want accessible. They want ethical. They want glitzy things and plain things and sustainable things and trendy things, but plus size people only want this one thing. So let's just make them this one thing and that's all they get. Like that, it just makes zero sense.
Yeah, I hear you. So let's talk about your pivot that was so wonderfully, beautifully done at the time of the pandemic. You were the first person I saw making masks.
Yes.
And making masks that fit fat faces.
Ooh, yay, that's great.
And Mallory, I don't know why, but all 3 masks that I ordered from you when they arrived, they smell so good.
I don't know. My house smells good.
I've washed it so many times, it doesn't have that same scent. But yeah, I was like, oh, I like this. And by the way, this is the one I bought from you that has a place for the filter because I do electrolysis and I have to put a filter in there. And this is so much more comfortable in this paper scratchy. This one is so lovely. It feels so luxurious on. And then you know which side is the inside, right? Because that's the black side. And you can see all these lovely seams. They're like sewn so well and so beautifully. What made you decide to pivot and do that?
Well, it's funny because in my mind when it was happening, I felt like it took me a while to decide to do them. But then you're like, oh, you're one of the first.
You're one of the first that I saw. Yeah.
So basically, mid-March is when it really became like, okay, we are shutting down. My Parsons class went virtual. And I'm a very overachieving busybody. I'm always need to be working, doing lots of stuff.
Me too.
And at the beginning of everything, I was kind of like, okay, I'll just take a little slow down break. I guess that will be nice. And it feels like it was a century, but it was really only a 2-week period where I didn't have a ton to do. And I was just doing fun art and hanging out with my husband. And then things started popping up about masks, but they weren't mandated yet. And no one really had set opinions on, should we all be wearing them? Should some people be wearing them? We don't know, whatever.
Right.
So I was watching all of that and just kind of waiting for a more concrete answer about should we have them? If we have them, what should they be? A few people had been releasing free patterns online to make masks. And a lot of them I felt and I think are very tailored to people who are home sewers who have a sewing machine and know how to use it for their own purposes, but they're not, a professional seamstress or fashion designer. And they're those ones that are a square and then they're pleated. So they're kind of like the surgical mask. And then I saw some people making the more curved masks, the ones that I ended up going with.
Right. With the space for your nose and everything.
Right, correct. And so I decided to start doing them. I kind of put the post up just on my personal page first to see if anyone would even want them. And then everybody was really wanting them. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go forth and actually post it on SmartGlamour. And from the beginning, I knew that if I was going to do it, first of all, I wanted to look into what fabrics to use, what were going to be most comfortable, but also most effective. And that's why I use double knits. It's stretchy and soft, but it has a very tight weave. You can still breathe. You don't feel like you're being suffocated or that you're sweating too much, but it's got a tight weave, which means the actual threads of the fabric are woven together tightly. So there's less room for particles to get through.
Right.
Then I knew I wanted to do this specific face shape because it would cover the majority of your face without being uncomfortable or feeling like your chin's going to fall out, whatever. Then I was thinking, okay, so I have this pattern that originally came with 3 sizes. And in my mind immediately, I'm like, so there can't just be one size, because no one has, there's no just one size face. So why would there be one size face now?
Yeah.
And so I started with the 3, and then I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll add a smaller one for kids. Maybe I'll add an extra large that's past this large size for people who have even bigger faces, or they have a beard or something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I've ended up adding an even smaller kid size. I actually just recently, like yesterday, added an even smaller kid size for one of my other nieces who's 4, and she's very tiny. So I'll probably be posting about that soon. But it's just about, I mean, these are new things in the scheme of making things. So it's a lot about like listening and learning and adjusting. You know, now all of a sudden I've got all these fabrics because people, you know, it's more fun. If you have to wear this thing, might as well be cute.
Yeah, you need more than one.
Because I love fashion. And then the other very important part is that, you know, at the end of the day, these are not cocktail dresses. These are safety devices, and they should be accessible to anyone who needs them. So from the first day that I posted, I decided not to give anybody a set price. So they are pay what you can / want, which means exactly that. Whatever you are able to pay or want to pay is the price. I'm not going to give you a suggested price because I don't want anyone to feel bad if they can't pay that price, or feel like, you know, I really need 3, but I can only afford 2, you know, whatever the case may be. And then what's wonderful about that is that people who have more and are, you know, in my sphere of people who find me are very lovely and generous, and they do pay more, and that evens out. So somebody who has to pay $2 a mask is covered by the somebody who can pay $15, $20, $25 a mask.
Nice.
And it just really balances out. And then people also send money for donations, and I've been able to give out a little over 500 to people all around the country and the world.
A lot of first responders and frontline people too, like medical people.
Yeah, so I mean, I've sent them to schools, I've sent them to healthcare workers, essential workers, single mothers, homeless folks, LGBTQIA plus specific charities, directly to teachers. Tomorrow I'm sending a whole giant big batch that I ended up with to a school in Arkansas, a school in New York City, just one human being who reached out and asked for them. I mean, it's just anybody. And there's no qualification for being in need. If you are in need, then I trust that you're in need, and that's that.
That's nice. That's nice of you. Yeah, I carry these in my car because I like to give granola bars and stuff to our homeless people, and I just give them a couple of those surgical masks, and they're always like, "Oh, you never know, you know, if you," they're like, "Okay, thank you." They appreciate it. I mean, I wish I could afford to give these away, you know, but it's so you are in New York, right?
Yes, I'm in New York City.
And you do all this from your apartment?
I do. I'm sitting in my studio right now.
Okay.
So,
yeah, there it is.
All my mask fabrics all over here.
Wow, oh my gosh.
I have another sewing machine behind my computer. I have 3 sewing machines.
Jeez. Wow. How do you manage all that fabric? Seems like so much.
It's a lot. You know, it's
you photograph it and sell it and market it too, right? So
yeah, I do everything. Yeah. And I've had to like completely rearrange my fabric in general, because I used to just have, you know, clothing fabric over there, and then I've had to completely change it to mask fabric. So it's been interesting.
So are you selling other stuff now too? Like, are people buying clothes from you still? So you have to sew both?
Yeah, the site, I never turned the site off. I did put a notice up. So at first, my fabric stores were closed for a long time in New York City because they're not essential businesses.
Yeah.
So I could get some things online, but some specific prints and whatnot, I might not have been able to get because they're only in my stores, and my stores are closed. So I did have a note up about that, and a lot of people have been so lovely. You know, if they ordered something and now I can't get it, we have a whole back and forth via email, and either they swap it out, or they just are happy to wait, or I find something else for them. And now my stores are back open, but since I'm making so many masks, I've made just under 4,000 in 4 months. So, you know, it's a delicate balance between getting my SmartGlamour order stuff done and then the mask done.
Sure.
But everyone is very understanding and lovely about that. And then, you know, just as far as SmartGlamour in general, I haven't done a shoot since March. I'm not going to do a photo shoot until this is done, until there's a vaccine. I mean, just in my opinion, my personal opinion, people's safety is more important than clothing. If it gets to the point where absolutely no one is wearing masks and I need to sell clothes, maybe I'll put some on myself. Maybe I'll put some on a mannequin. I don't know. I'll find another creative solution. I'm not going to drag your models together at this time.
I saw Ian's one of your models, right, for the mask.
Well, for the masks, yes, I do make my husband put them on. I mean,
he's in your bubble. It's allowed.
Yes,
so, to end this on something really fun, I understand you're going to take a little break.
I am next week. Yes. Wow. So, I mean, I've run SmartGlamour for 6.5 years. I took a vacation for my honeymoon in 2015. The following year, we went to Charleston for 3 days, I believe. But both of those times, I was lucky enough to have some friends who were willing and able and happy to post some social media for me and like answer some emails for me. So nothing had stopped. But this time, you know, since the majority is mask work, I was just like, you know what? I need to take an actual break. So there will be no one running SmartGlamour for the first time ever for 5 days.
You'll be fine. It'll be fine. I promise. It'll be okay.
Yeah. It's so funny when I posted about taking a break and here's what all this means and here are the cutoff times and whatnot. The amount of people who DM'd me, people I know and strangers alike, who were like, finally, good job. I was like, okay.
I'm very happy for you. Me too. So let's just say people want to order masks, you know, like this week or next weekend, while you're gone, just let them know it's going to be, instead of being 1 or 10 days, it might be 15 days or
I
mean, or whatever.
Basically, and anyone who ordered a mask up until yesterday, they're going out before I leave. You're welcome to still place orders today until Sunday. They just won't get put into a queue until I come back from my break. So the typical turnaround is about a week, but since then I'm adding 5 days. Yeah, I could be like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah.
And shipping, I think, is like $5, something really, really nominal.
So it depends on how many masks you get. For up to 5 masks, it's $5. For up to 7 masks, 6 and 7 masks, it's $7. 8 to 10 masks is $10. And then when it gets past 10 masks, I calculate it for you. If you live in Canada, I ship a lot of masks to Canada also. Sure. Or in another country, I ship anywhere in the world. I just calculate the shipping for you.
Okay, very cool. And people can pay you like via PayPal or Venmo. I know I Venmo'd you. Any other ways, or can they buy them on your website?
So just on my website, there's just a link, which then takes you to my Facebook posts. Because they're pay what you want I didn't put them as a product, because then people would I'd have to find a way for people to like enter their amount, you know? So it's direct through PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. But if you go to Facebook or our Instagram, there are posts all over the place linking you to Instagram story highlights and pinned posts on Facebook that have all of the information about sizing, fabrics, colors, ship times. Like, I have all the details. I'm a very detail-oriented person. So
4,000 masks in 4 months?
Yeah, about that.
You're nuts. That's awesome.
I am.
That's so great. I appreciate you. And I appreciate that you do that and that you give away so many and that you let people pay what they can, because we know, especially right now, you know, it's tough and it's, so I appreciate you.
And I mean, no one should be choosing, you know, between food or rent or keeping themselves safe, you know, so like,
I agree.
You know, and there's people who will message me and be like, oh, I really want to order, but can I pay you next week? I'm like, no, you can just get free masks from my tally of free masks, because this is not, we don't need to do this. Like, just ask for help. It's fine.
Right. That's really great. So smartglamour.com. Facebook is also SmartGlamour. And I think you have the mask link pinned to the top of your page, right? So it's very easy to find. And then once I put this on YouTube, I'll put it in the show notes too. Thank you, Mallory. So fun to talk with you. Thank you for all that you do. I so appreciate all of your work. I know you work your ass off, so I know you look so young and you have no wrinkles, and all that cutting must make your eyes like squinch. And I don't know, you must love what you do. I think it shows.
It's more my hands than my
eyes. I'm sure. Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Mallory. Take care. Bye.